A New York City council member from Queens, of all places, has stood up and made a call to arms, reminding her constituents that they have a constitutional right to protect themselves from violent crime. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In a surprising twist not brought on by the riots or the apparent firebombing of 8 NYPD cars in Brooklyn on Wednesday night, Republican New York City Council member Vicky Palladino issued a call to arms, not to go after ICE agents or whatever anti-Trump cause, but for her constituents to protect themselves from violent crime. The exact inspiration was a pretty shocking home invasion in Queens earlier this week, where an entire family found themselves tied up in their basement. But before I jump into the details, this video is brought to you by Blackout Coffee Company. Blackout Coffee is my favorite pro-Second Amendment coffee roaster and a huge supporter of this channel. They keep me going through long days of being a toddler mom, video research, combing through legal briefs, late night video filming, the whole 9 yards. They have great smooth coffee, tea, and hot chocolate, have just added instant coffee to their lineup, and even have dedicated partner roasts that raise money for GOA, FPC, and the Second Amendment Foundation. So to get a cup of coffee that you can be proud of and help support the channel, go to blackoutcoffee.com/libertydoll, and as a bonus, you can use code LibertyDoll for a one-time 20% discount. On Monday morning, just after 9 a.m., aka broad daylight, 2 armed men disguised as Amazon workers forced their way into a single-family home in Queens, held up the family at gunpoint, including 3 of their children, ages 5, 10, and 18, dragged them to the basement, tied them up, and duct-taped their mouths shut. The 4th child had already left for school, accidentally leaving the door ajar, which made it easier for the 2 men to break in. Then the men raided the house, getting away with $16,000 worth of money, jewelry, electronics, and they even took the victim's own minivan as the getaway car, which was found abandoned 2 blocks away. The house is across the street from an elementary school, and the suspects are still at large, with no clues. In response, Palladino issued a statement urging her constituents to apply for gun permits, which is kind of ironic considering New York has been doing everything it can to resist actually awarding said gun permits. In her press statement about the incident, she wrote, "I want to remind my constituents that New Yorkers have a constitutional right to protect themselves. I urge my constituents to avail themselves of their rights under the Second Amendment. My office is always available to assist constituents with obtaining firearm permits for premises or concealed carry. The safety of our neighborhoods is my top priority." The problem is, it's not the top priority for most of the other politicos in the city. Neighbors say that home invasions are becoming more and more frequent in that area, with 2 of them saying they had been robbed in just the last 6 months. And in fact, that precinct has reported 99 robberies so far this year. Neighbors lamented that the bad guys never get caught, and so one ominously stated that after that, he got prepared. But aside from the plethora of gun control laws that New York Democrats are always throwing at the wall, the delays in getting permits are so bad, even after New York was slapped by Bruin, that there are numerous federal lawsuits, and allegedly the Bondi Task Force is looking at things. What that will amount to, we don't actually know. Now, the plaintiffs in those lawsuits filed in March are giving the NYPD the benefit of the doubt, saying that they just weren't prepared for the volume of permit applicants and don't have the proper training to go through those applications in a timely manner. Which might be true. The plaintiffs in the case all reported that they were not able to get their permits until they hired attorneys to harass the police into looking at their applications. But having covered similar delays in other areas of the state and other states, I always question whether or not being prepared is the full story. I'm sure that not being ready for the volume of applications could play a role, but how many of these departments also just aren't a fan of regular citizens exercising their rights? There have been deliberate schemes in some counties to put off permits for as long as 3 years, hoping people will just give up or stop applying. State law requires permits to be given within 6 months or else for them to give a good reason for the delays. Instead, many people are waiting over a year, and in the case of one of the lawsuits, once the guy finally got his permit, it had someone else's photo on it. According to the lawsuit, the NYPD used to only get a few hundred applications a year, but in 2024, they got over 9,000. But waiting too long goes against Bruin, and let's be real, New York's entire permitting process still goes against Bruin by design. It is purposefully onerous, and how much of that contributes to this waiting period, we don't really know. We can only hope that for the people who insist on staying in New York, that one of these lawsuits will eventually stick, turning Palladino's call to arms into actual, actionable advice. But you know what? Brownie points for putting it out there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this video. Please like, share, and subscribe if you are new here. Ring that notification bell and drop a comment down below. And as always, thanks for tuning in. Stay safe out there, New Yorkers, and happy shooting.